Hi, and welcome to Manny's Makings. I'm going to make a sort of an arrowhead shape today. So I'm going to do a different shape, and this is just another example. This one has a feather on front of it, and it's done with oranges and black and white and red. So that's another one. We're going to do one with black, red, and white, which is the traditional Dare Clan colors. And I'm going to show you how to do this, and then how I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. So what you're going to need today, let's move these out of the way. What you're going to need today is a few things. You're going to need some 26 gauge wire or 28 gauge wire to weave the beads with. You're going to need some, this is 18 gauges for the frame. You can use 20 gauge as well. 20 gauge you probably would hammer, I would hammer it. So I've cut myself off a length of wingspan length of weaving wire, and I have a 6-inch piece of the base wire. And then you're going to need some beads. These are all 11/0s. There's white, black, and red, and they're sort of the traditional colors. You're also going to need some tools. So you're going to need wire straighteners to straighten your wire. You're going to need some kind of pliers. These are my thinnest tips. These are my chain nose pliers, and those are the bent ones, and then the straight ones for opening the jump rings as well. You're going to need some nippers or some flush cutters, and then you're going to need some round nose pliers. You're also going to need some, these are anodized aluminum. They're 18 gauge 3/16 5mm jump rings. They're quite large, but they work really well when you want to string leather cording or suede cording through, and this one I think I'm going to do a suede cording. So okay, so to start with, you take your piece of wire and you find your middle, which should be around the 3-inch mark. And I'm just putting my finger basically where that is. And then you're going to just need to take it and you're going to need to bend it into a V. Okay. Now, the other ones I've done have been about 2.5 inches long, so let's go a little shorter on this one, so it's not such a big V. Okay, so I just took a measurement. It doesn't really matter where I go, and I'm going to just take my wire, and I'm going to bend it over at 90 degrees. So it didn't go to 90 degrees all the way, which is fine. I'm just going to bend it a little further, so it's 90 degrees. So this one's going to be a little 1 1/4 inch. One time it's hanging, it'll be 1.5 inches hanging down, so it'll be quite small. And then once you get this set, this triangle set, then you can take your pliers and put them just above where the wires intersect and bend that one down. And what happens is it sits them on top of each other. Now I'm going to show you an easy way to make sure you get the loops in the middle. So I'm going to stick my pliers approximately in the middle where I want them to be. And now my pliers are thicker, so I'm going to have to switch sides when I get to the other side, but I'll start with this side. And I'm just going to take it, and as I'm holding it there, I'm bending this one wire over top and back down the other side. Okay. I'm going to reposition my pliers and close up that loop. So I made a loop in the middle, and now I'm going to take it the other way, and I'm going to do the opposite. So take it around and switch and bring it around. So now I have two loops approximately the center. I can see that this one here came out. See how it's closer to this end? So we can fix that. That's easy. So you just put your pliers in and you open it back up. As you're spinning it, what you're doing is opening it back up to, I'm just pulling this wire back, opening it back up so that it's sitting in the center position again. So bring it out a little bit further, and I'm going to wrap that around. It's a little closer. Reposition my pliers, bring it around. Okay, so let's see how we are for evenness on the sides. So let's bring this one in a little. So I'm just tweaking it. If you notice that the tail's coming up as I'm tweaking it, so when I put the two of them together, the idea is to have two circles together that'll be on the top that I can put the two jump rings in. Okay, so we're good there. So what I do is I now take, let's see if I can separate these out so you can see them. I now take where the tail comes in and meets the loop, and I turn my cutters around so that I'm cutting it flush inside there. So I'm cutting it, and I'm going to do the other side now. And this loop looks a little smaller, so let's bring it out, make it bigger. I want them both to be the same size, so I'm checking the width here and here before the loop starts. I'm checking that the loops are the same size. See? Before I cut anything on the second one. Let's tuck this one in a little so I can get a better. Okay, this needs to be just a smidge bigger. The loop needs to be a little bit bigger. And we're good. So now I'm ready to do the second cut. So again, I'm bringing my nippers in as close as I can to where the wires overlap, and I'm just going to nip that off. And I'm going to take my pliers inside and close those loops. Now you have a couple choices. You can leave them both like this if you want and wrap just in the center, or you can lay them over top of each other like this. I'm going to actually leave them like this. I'd like a little bit more space in here in my little arrowhead. So I just need to take a scrap piece of weaving wire. Okay, so I pulled out a little piece of weaving wire that's just from my scrap bin, and I need to see how the loops are coming up from themselves. So I'm just going to flatten that out. Make sure the loops are all flat and that they're closed before I do this. Don't want to do with those pliers, doesn't work very well. There we go. Making sure that everything's happy, because once I put it together, it's done. So, okay, I'm just take my weaving wire up, my little piece, my scrap piece, I'm putting it up the other hole, and I'm just going to bring it back down the first hole, and I'm just wrapping the two together. And the only thing you have to do is make sure that they lay side by side as you're doing this. And this is great for thin gauge wire to do this with. You could use a piece of half round if you wanted to bring around the center here, but this is more than enough. If I do like 3 or 4 wraps, I should stay pretty good. So one more, that's 3. So I need to do one more, and then I'll make it 4. So I'm just laying it down the wraps side by side. There's 4. So I have 4. I have both of these coming up and out. So I'm going to just take this and wrap this around the one wire by itself once. Bringing that up nice and tight. And I'm going to do the same thing with this top one here. So I'm going to bring it in. Instead of going over the 2, I'm just going to go around once. Get that out of the way. Okay. I brought it around once. Okay, so now we're ready to cut those off and get them out of the way. So as I said, this is my scrap bin. So I will save, I still have a longer piece, so that longer piece I will save in my scrap bin and I will continue to use it. So now I just take my pliers and I just take those little nubbies that are sticking up and bend them down. And this one's right here. Can you see it sticking out there? See it sticking out? So I'm going to round it around. It still wants to lay funny, so come on. And I'm trying to do it in a sort of a round circle here, so it's a little harder, but we got it. It'll go there. You're the boss of the wire. The wire is not the boss of you. Okay. There we go. Finally got it to lay down. So everything's laid down. It's nice and smooth. So now we're ready to put on some beads. So cut yourself your wire, get yourself to this stage, and come back to me. Okay, so we're going to do this one slightly different. With the other technique, we wrap around and then we come back and we wrap around and we come back and we put beads on each time we go over. This one I want all the beads on the top surface. So to be able to do that, you have to start first of all with your wire on the top of the front side of whatever you decide is the front side. You could hammer this if you wanted a hammer finish. You're really not going to see the finish on it, so it doesn't really matter as long as it's structurally sound enough. So I'm just going to take my little tail end and I'm just going to tuck it in here. Whoops, put it through the wrong hole. I want to go through the big space, not the little space, not the little hole. And I'm going to bring it around. And because it's less wire to manipulate, it's easier than doing the tail. Okay, so as you can see, it's, let me zoom in a bit here. Let me turn that light off, that'll give you a little bit better view. Okay, so I'm just bringing this in, and I'm going to go around 3 times. Squish this in, and you can do it with your pliers, however way you like, and I'm just going to hold this out to the side. Okay, so this is where my first set of beads are going to go on. Okay, they're going to go across here. So I'm going to frame everything in the black. So I'm going to start with just putting some black beads on. So let me zoom out just a smidge more, so you can see what I'm doing. So I have my beads on here, so I'm just going to put black beads on here. Now beads are never exactly the same size, especially if you get Czech beads, Mayukis. So let's take a look at these 4 beads. I just want you to see the difference. You can see that the last one there is skinnier than the other 3. So I'm going to keep track of that little bead and I'm going to put it over somewhere else. So I put it off to the side by itself. And then that way it knows, I know that that's a skinny one. So I'm going to, might need it later. So I'm just picking up beads. I don't know how many I'm going to need, because this is free form, like in the sense that, and I'm just letting them slide down the wire. Okay, so I can see I still need some more. I don't have enough to cover the whole space. So let's try another 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and usually what I do is I put this down in my lap and I let the beads fall down, and once they're all down in my lap, it does that. It moves the wire where I don't want it to be, but that only does it for the first round. And then I bring it across. Now what you're looking for is for your beads to fit inside the wire frame. You don't want them to be on top of the wire frame like this. You want them to be inside the wire frame, and you don't want it to pucker up to do that. You want it to be straight across. Okay? Once you get it to that point and it's straight across and your beads are exactly where you want them to be, you're going to stick your wire up through like a loop and pull gently so you don't kink, because you have quite a length. It's going to get shorter as you go. You probably don't need an arm's length, but I always like to err on the side of caution, so I went around twice, so that becomes like 3 wraps. Now this is traditionally where people would cut it off and then they start the wire fresh again on this side. But I've discovered something that's kind of fun. So I'm going to do a second set of beads. I'm going to flip it over, and this is now my front side. It's going to be my back side, and all I'm going to do is do it in black, straight black. So, and it is going to make the front pucker a little bit, but that's okay. So I'm just picking up some black beads. And now, because the beads are slightly different sizes, I wouldn't use Delicas for this. You don't have as much change in bead size, and Tohos you might run into trouble too. So definitely Mayuki seed beads, not I got 3 more on there, would be your best choice, or some Czech beads. This is the perfect place to use that stash of uneven beads. Okay, so I can see, I don't know if you can see this, it fits in there. See how that fits in there? Alright, so now I'm going to go poke it through the hole again. I'm going to go one, whoop. Now I got a kink in my wire, look, right there. So I got to take that out before I pull it any tighter. So what I do when I have something like this is you have to back it out the way it went in. So I'm just taking it and I'm backing out the way that I went in and go like this. And then I take my wire straighteners because it's going to be a place that, and I'm going to straighten that out. Okay? Because I wasn't being careful. Oh, okay. Alright, so 1, 2, pull this in. And I'm just pulling gently. There we go. That's better. 3. And you're pushing them up beside each other. Now I'm back to the front again. So this is where I'm going to do my pattern. And that back row is going to sit just behind my pattern one. So let's start a pattern. Let's do... Now this is conducive to a V pattern of some sort. Yeah, that's the only way to put it. So I'm going to put, let's say, 2 black beads, 3 black beads on the outside. So this pattern I haven't tried to do. And then I'm going to do some red beads. So let's do a couple of red beads. How many beads do we have there total? Let's see if I can count them. Give me 2 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we had 12 to start with. So we're probably only going to have 11 on this row. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I do 6, that would be 12. So let's do 1. Actually, that's... I want some white in the center, so I'm taking off some beads. I'm going to start with 2 red, and 2 white, and I'm going to see where that takes me. Now I have a skinny white and a fat white. See, there's a skinny and a fat, so let's get rid of the skinny. Keep the skinny with the other skinny pile. There's 2 skinnies now together. Let's take the fat one and another fat one. Another normal one. Okay, so 2 normal ones, and then let's see where this goes. And try not to get your wire caught all over doorknob. I have knobs on my desk. So what I'm looking to do is try to get to the center with my beads. I'm pushing them up against the center, so it takes me to there. And I'm still not liking this bead. It's still a little narrow, so I'm going to go up, find a fatter bead for the second white one here, and then I'm going to put 2 red and then 2 black. Okay, and this is literally what you do. You're taking beads on and off, and I know it's, if you want to get a pattern that sort of looks good, that's what you have to do. So I'm sort of going through my beads. Much easier to see with my bright light shining on them, but I don't have that one on. Let's see if I can find one that's a little fatter. So that one looks a little bit better. So I'm happier with that one. So there's that one, and then I need 2 red. Whoops, put that white one back on there. And I need 2 red, 2 normal size red, and then 2 black. And let's see how this lays. Ta-da! So if I put it up against the side of the wire there, I don't know if you can see, because the other one behind, I have a little bit of wire space. I can move my beads back and forth inside that. So that means I don't have enough beads. So remember that skinny black bead I told you about? That we put aside? Perfect place for that skinny black bead. So those ones that are too skinny to work in normal, like let's say loom work, or if you're doing other kinds of square stitch and things like that, you can't use those little skinny beads. This is the perfect place for those little skinny beads. Now it fits perfectly. So 1, through, 2, and then come around the back. And with the back we do black beads again. And if your end of your wire gets all monkeyed up, just take your fingers and run it across. This is your needle, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's see where 10 sits. That's a skinny one. 10. So because I'm coming down a little bit in space from the last row of black beads I did at the back, because of that, I need less beads, so I only need 10. Okay, so I'm going to come back up and around. Soon I'm going to have to put the end of the wire through. Almost got another kink. There we go. Straighten that one out before I get one. Okay, 1, pull it around, put it up through, pull the wire through and around, and then to the front. So now we're ready for my third row of beads. So we're going to start with 2 black, and I'm going to ignore that I had to put a third black on the other side. So I put 2 black, then I need 2 red, and then we're going to try see if we can find a nice fat white one. So I'm looking for a fat white one, or a decent sized white one. And I have to, a lot of them are the same, so I'm putzing around with my beads. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so I put them all down, and what I'm looking for is when I put them up against the side where they're going to go, see how that's not quite the center? It's not, right there would be the center. Right there would be the center, but if I push the bead snug against the side where they're supposed to be, see how it's off a little? So I need something fatter in here somewhere, whether it's a black bead or whether it's a red bead. Doesn't really matter, so let's pull 2 off. Let's try to find a fat red one. I probably have more luck finding a fat black one, but let's see if I can find a fat red one. There's a fatter red one. So I found a fatter red one. And then let's try putting the white one back on. And this is a nuance. If you don't want the pattern to be perfect, if you don't care if it's perfectly centered. Okay, so that's didn't make it any better. I'm going to put a second white bead on, and I'm going to see if I can find a narrow one. Now, there was a skinny one that I put aside here. So there's a skinny white bead that I'm going to try to put in here. It has to match or be less than. So see how I have a skinny white bead and a fat white or a fatter white bead, but they're just smidgen smaller than the other ones. I'm good with that. So 2 red beads and then 2 more black beads. There's my, just checking the width of my beads to make sure that they're pretty uniform. I'm letting them drop down, and I'm checking. They fit in there perfectly. So that's what I have so far. Now you could do this with your favorite colors, your favorite team colors. You could do them in a square, you could use delicas with a square. And this would enable you to have pendants. Now because we're getting narrower and narrower, every time, I don't know if you notice, I'm pushing up, and the reason I'm pushing up is because they're going to have a tendency to do this, and I don't want them to do that, so I'm pushing up, and then, you know, making sure the wire is good and tight. So there's my first 2 rows, and you can see a slight V just starting to happen. So I'm over to the back again, and I have to just pick up black. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4. Now your count's going to be different than mine because it depends on how big you make your little triangle. So the other way you can do it is put them on the needle like this, or on your wire like this, and sort of hold it there. So I can see I'm going to need at least one more bead. Now when you're matching the pattern, it doesn't work as well, but when you're trying to just fill space, works great. Okay, bring them down. Okay, see how they futz around? I can see I get one more bead space. Can you see that I have one more bead space there? I can get one more bead in there. So let's get one more bead and put it in there. Get one more black bead, put it in there. I'm letting it fall down. And it fits in there. Yay! I'm good. Now we'll straighten out all these, make sure these wires are perfectly lined up and straight afterwards, but pull that through. That's 1, 2 times. And I'm ready. And each time I do them, I'm bringing the wires up beside each other so that they're staying really tight. That's what I want. And then I'm ready to do the next one. Now at this point, you could get rid of your the weaving wire that you have here. And I'm going to leave a little extra because I'm going to tuck it around the back side and in. So let's bring that around. Donk. And I'm going to just tuck that in. So it's not going to rub on me. It's not going to rub on whoever's wearing it. So this is what we've got so far. So let's try the next row. Whoops. See, when that happens, it pulls it down. Just shove it back up. I usually just stick my fingers there, like hold the top and hold my fingers where that last position is. Okay, so 2 black to start, like always. And then 2 red. And we should be able to get away with 1 white bead now. So let's let them drop. Let's check. When they're up against the side, look at that. They're in the center. So I gotta push this up. There we go. See how that goes to the center? So now I gotta put 2 red beads and 2 black beads. And 2 black beads. Alright. Let's see where that sits. So when you're doing a symmetrical pattern and you want to have something come down the middle a certain way, you have to do 1/2, make sure it centers where you want it to be, and then you do the other half. So I'm going to come down here, poke it through twice. I can still have enough room to poke it through, so I'm doing it that way. It's faster than taking the tail end of the wire every time and making sure this is all shoved up where I want it to be, especially since I'm doing the stuff on the back. And that's how the back's looking so far. Time to do more black on the back. So as you can see, this is basically what you do, and you just keep going. Keep filling up the front and the back. If you find a little super skinny bead, stick it where you in case you need a skinny bead later. If you find a particularly fat bead, put them off to the side as you're putting them on the wire. So I'm looking. I need at least 1 more bead. See how I need more beads? I don't care the exact number, and so you can't really sketch these ones out. It's kind of like when you do embroidery and you are laying down your beads. When you're doing embroidery, you want your beads to lay down in nice neat rows. It's the same sort of thing that you do when you're bead embroidering, when you're doing native work. So it's the same premise where you pick fatter and skinnier beads to fit in the little spots. So this one slipped down, so before I tighten it, I'm going to put it back up, and I'm actually pulling upwards a little bit. I don't want to overlap the wires, but I am pulling upwards a little bit. And so they're laying beside each other. 1 more front row, and then I'll go on and finish. Now you can add any pattern you wanted. If I wanted, I could start another color now. I could have done several colors on this, whatever I'd like. So I need 2 black. I'm always starting with 2 black, and then I need red. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's see where that lays, because my white's done, I think. So if I put that there, it's not quite, it's close. Let's see what I can find for black beads. I'm looking for one that's just a little bit fatter, I think, of what I needed. Put the other 2 black beads down. So when I go like that, am I happy with that? Is it sitting where I want it to sit? Is it close? Yeah, I'm good with that. And you're never going to get them absolutely perfect. You could, but you'd literally spend hours culling through your beads looking for the beads. Sorry, I just hit them with the wire and sent beads everywhere. Woo! So, 1, 2. Now what I think I'm going to do is if I run out of red, I may actually run one less black and just run the red down the center as like a little point. But I'm going to keep going back and forth and back and forth, and when I get near the end, I'm going to come back and explain to you how to finish this off. Okay, so I'm down to the last couple of beads. I have put 3 on here on the front. I put the one, and I'm going to finish with 1 red bead on the very bottom, just because I feel like it. So my wire's around, ready to go over top. So I'm going to find a red bead that fits in that last little hole. Now, when you're putting on these last couple of beads, it's really crucial that the beads still stay within the wire, in the sense that they're not, that they're not, how do I put this? That they're not on top of the wire, that they're in the actual wire. Otherwise, you're going to get a funky spot where, and these 3 here are probably a little bit too big. You're going to feel it on the actual piece, that they're sticking up more than the rest of them are. So you put that last one on, and then I'm just going to take the end of the wire and I'm just bringing it around, not through the bead, obviously. That's silly. Okay, let's see if I can get it to go where I want it to, which is on the end here. There we go. So, okay. The wire was on the wire's on the wrong side. Can you see how it's on the wrong side? I need it to be on the other side. So let's back that out. Try again. Get over there. Gonna hold that wire over there. Stick it in the little hole here. There we go. Now just watching that it's not kinking here. Now sometimes what happens is the bead does this. It's really annoying and really frustrating. So just spin it back around, put it where you want it. That can happen a lot with the last bead on a row. So there's one. If you sort of see how I brought that out, sort of straight out from there, it'll help with the bringing it around a little bit easier. So there's the second one. Now at this point I can continue and wrap the whole end, which I think I'm going to do. And then I will come, so I'm just going to wrap the weaving wire around the end, and then I'll come back and show you. So this is an interesting design. You can come up with your own designs. As I said, you know, this is a bit bigger one. It's a lot bigger, see? And you can, the bigger you go, the more patterning you can do. With this one, it's basically the same type of design as I'm doing here, different colors. And I went down a little farther with it. There's lots and lots of rows, and I did a black and white edging. So you can, and then I put the feather on top because it was really bright orange. Lots of guys like orange, but it's nice to have something that sort of plays hide and seek with the orange. Okay, but I'm okay with the red, black, and white. If you wanted to, you could wrap beads on the side as you're going around. On the second time around, it gets more complicated. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this, come back, and I'll see you then. Okay, I'm back. I took out a couple of jump rings, moved some of my beads out of the way. So I have this piece, I have a couple of jump rings here, and let me just straighten this out a little bit. Sorry guys for the movement. And I have, this is some suede. Remember those hooks that I made in a previous tutorial? I stuck one on with a jump ring. I wire wrapped around with a 20 gauge wire, 18 gauge wire around the ends and trimmed off. I just flapped them over, so I just basically went like this and made them like a loop and flattened the two flat sides together so they're meeting, and then I wire wrapped around them. Yeah, so you can just wire wrap around them, then I tuck the ends in. I take them and crank them in so that they dig into the side of, when I push down with they dig into the side. I did that to both ends, so my cord is actually complete. So now I just need to put it on the pendant. So I'm gonna take my cord and put it through the jump ring. Let's open that up just a little bit more so the cord will go through. So I got my cord through, and I'm going to stick one side of this through on the one jump ring. And I'm just going to close this, whoops, I'm just going to close this up. And then I'm going to take the other jump ring. And these are, I bought these jump rings, they're not made, and they're really sturdy. I tend to use these jump rings when I'm doing men's jewelry, especially because they tend to be a little tougher on their things than women do. Okay, I can open that a little bit more, I don't have to be so stingy. There, make it easier to get over the cord, thanks. So that one's on that side, so I need to put one on this side. So I'm just taking and closing my jump ring. And as lots of people like to say, jump rings are either open or closed. The click really doesn't have anything to do with it other than it tells you that you've got them touching each other, but that's a closed jump ring. So now I have the two pieces hanging over top. Now at this point I need something more on here. I'm not sure what I would do yet, so this is what it looks like. It's a small black and red pendant. Let's back out a bit. So we have this small black and red pendant here. That would be quite nice on a guy. This is a 20-inch cord, so it's going to sit sort of not too low, but not. It's longer than most women's ones. You've got the back side is solid black. You've got the beads on both sides, so it's pretty sturdy. Yeah, if you're doing this for a woman, this would really be fun with sort of a briole. I know this is going to sound really kind of macabre, but this kind of reminds me of Drops of Blood. So to actually have a drop, something that looks like a drop of blood at the bottom would be really kind of cool. So if you're into that kind of thing, that would be great. You could do these, as I said, in any colors that you like. And as you can see, I got a pretty decent pattern on here. You know, you can't, your limitations are based on this point here, where you go down to one color. You could have less on the sides of a color, but even if I did a V, the V would have to start, come out, and come back in. I'd have to know how many rows. So you have to make one of these, and then make another one exactly the same size, and then after you sort of do a pattern of even just, you know, plain like this, on the plain one I could put something on there, you know, hang a charm or whatever on top of it, an ohm sign. You could do it all plain and put an ohm on it. It would be great. So those are some of the things you could do. Okay, gives you an idea. So I hope you learned something today. This is a double-sided beaded dagger, and I hope you enjoyed this. And take care from Annie's Makings. Please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, the list of all the materials I used will be below the link. the show more button. Take care and keep on making from Annie's Makings. Bye.